You're listening to 106.9 Tune FM, and that was your daily dose of the 11 o'clock news. And normally we would have one of our mixtape spotlight songs, but instead we have a very special treat. I'm lucky enough to be joined in the studio by former UNE student and alumni and frontman of the Social Norm, as well as a solo artist in his own right. It is Tim Godwin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ben. How you been, Ben?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Still trying to figure out exactly what's going on in the world and try and get back to something resembling a form of normality. How about you?
Well, I've given up trying to work out what's going on in the world.
That's fair.
I'm just on the bandwagon like everyone else. But no, look, it feels good to be back here at Tune FM and at UNE. It's had weird being an alumni, but definitely it's looking very autumn, and lots of memories are flying back to me of being up all night partying and trying to get assignments done. So
sure. No, Armidale very much. Armidale is it's rather renowned for the beauty of the autumns that we get up here. We're quite lucky in that regard.
Yeah, 100%.
So you obviously have had a lot of success in the past with your band, The Social Norm. They've been around for quite some time. Released a few different albums. Released a single just last year, and now you've sort of struck out on your own a bit more so than previously. You've obviously released a few singles. You're getting a few more tracks together. How do you find the difference between writing music for yourself as a solo artist compared to writing for a band?
Yeah, that's a cool question. Look, I remember I did an interview a little while ago at 301 when I put out a track last year, and I think the honest answer is it's a bit more reflective of my own life, the Tim Godwin stuff, whereas Social Norm's more your social commentary, political, tongue-in-cheek sort of stuff, and it was a conscious decision to separate them because I felt they were different.
Fair.
Yeah, and in honesty, like Generic Success and Payroll Number, I predominantly wrote and performed all of that myself, bar a little bit of it. So the writing process is not too dissimilar. But I think now it's interesting when I self-produce and play all the parts on the Tim Godwin stuff. It's like I'll write it and then kind of reverse engineer about how to do it. And it's funny now I've got a band together to do it, and they all ask me about the different parts. Like the drummer asked me about something, and the guitarist is like, man, I can't remember, dude. Once I do the drums, I forget about that. And
sure.
I do the guitar, and I forget about that. I do the synths and then the vocals. So, but in short, it's definitely more personal and reflective of what's going on personally with my life rather than what's going on with the world, if that makes sense.
And given that obviously you, it's purely solo stuff, the songs that you've been putting out, so you obviously do the vocals, you play the guitars, the drums, basically you do everything in the track. How much sort of more work goes into the entire process of that compared to, say the average Joe who would do things as part of a band? Is there a larger amount of work to be done when you're essentially doing everything yourself from scratch?
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't just rock up, do your part, and then PO. But having said that, you're also not collaborating, so you don't butt heads with anyone other than yourself. So definitely, I struggled a lot with it when I was by myself, not having anyone to bounce ideas off. I'm getting more efficient and better at it, but yeah, I mean, just the logistics of it. I mean, most stuff is multi-track recorded now, and a lot of people don't even record drums or bass these days, believe it or not. They just cheat and they use MIDI, but as a purist, I do it all, and that takes time. And because I produce it and record it myself, like for the record I'm putting out this year, Digital Noise, I literally set up in a room at NECOM here in Armidale, and single-handedly set up all the mics and everything, and I filmed it as well. So I need to set up lighting and all the rest of it. So yeah, compared that to going into a studio with an engineer and a band where you just say, I do a lot of session drumming, I'd just set up a drum kit, or there'd be already one there. Literally would just go in, well rehearsed, do my thing, and then leave. So
sure.
Considerably more, yeah.
Obviously this album that you spoke about, Digital Noise, a solo project, presumably that's going to be coming out later this year. Given that, like I said, you're doing everything yourself, including the engineering, the process of, say, recording a single and putting it all together, is there sort of like, how long does it generally take? Are we talking, say, a week's worth, even longer? Like from the time of going in and starting the recording process to having it pretty much ready to go, how long does it generally take to get one to that stage?
Well, it wouldn't be constant work, but I probably have a turnaround of about 6 months, 8 months.
Sure.
Actual time in the studio, a lot less than that. Having my own studio at home and doing it myself also means that you pick and choose when you do it, rather than You're paying a heap of money an hour to go into a studio. Obviously, you go and you smash it out. But actual, like, going through all those parts, I mean, it would a solid 10 hours or maybe up to 20 hours of actual production time, probably for a song, and that's recording, and then but then all the other stuff that goes with it, right? So I'll send it to a mix engineer who'll tweak it, and then it'll go to a mastering engineer, and that's another process. And these days you have a music video, and then you have all your press releases, and then your emails, and all this, the promo and stuff. So that turnaround is what takes more time than the actual production itself. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Does Digital Noise have a release date yet?
No, so I've given the deadline for my mix engineer to get the mixes back to me in June.
Right.
So I'm hoping to get a single out in July, and hopefully for some shows. I'm not keen to announce any dates at the moment because we're still a bit nervous about COVID. And we're shooting a film clip for it in May, the title track Digital Noise, and then hopefully July-ish maybe we'll get that out, and then later coming into spring it's a 6-track EP, so it's a longer EP.
Right.
Hopefully when it gets to spring we'll get it out, and we'll get some more dates locally and hopefully regionally, and maybe interstate as well. Depends on what happens, So
no, that's fair. Given that you just brought up obviously being able to hopefully tour with some of these tracks and whatnot, when it comes to solo releases like this, I take it then you do everything on the record. You can't obviously play drums and guitar all at the same time while you're on the road. Do you have? I assume that means you've got like you've got a group of people that are going to be touring with you for the solo release stuff? Yeah. So it's a different band entirely to the Social Norm, and it's taken me some time, but I've found some good people locally to do it, because I've actually moved home, and I've bought a place in Uralla. Nice. And the second song I think we're going to play in this interview is a bit about coming home. It's Cordy Ray's, but it's nice to be home now. It was a bit hard when I first came, but long and the short, I found some people. There's Rebecca Taffer, who's known relatively well in the folk scene, and she's playing bass for me, although we're very distant from folk, I must say. And then there's another guitarist, I think he's an alumni from UNE in music as well.
Oh, lovely.
Lee Knight. He's a great player, and he actually lived with the guitarist from the Social Norm here in Armidale back in the day. So It's funny how small the world actually is.
Absolutely.
And then I found this phenomenal drummer, Dan McLaughlin, who's based in Inverell. So it's really nice to be able to rehearse in the country, and it's so much different to Sydney.
I can imagine it would be.
Yeah, you're not paying $200 to just rehearse. You're in a shed in the back of Whoop Whoop, and you take as long as you want. There's not another band knocking on the door saying, hurry up, get out, it's our turn. And it's just...
Yeah.
It's actually nice. It's a bit frustrating because you're not as motivated to get stuff done, but I tell you what, man, you're not bustling in traffic, and you're not coughing up a heap of money just to do what you want to do.
Look,
so.
Yeah, no, you have to sell me on it. I'll never ever move to a city. That's not something I would even consider. Because now you just brought it up, and this was a question I was thinking of earlier. Is it you that designs all the cover art for obviously the Tim Godwin music stuff and other things like the Social Norm? Is it generally you that creates that?
No, not always. Right. Sometimes. For Digital Noise, I am doing the artwork for it, but Social Norm, no, I haven't done. I did one for Jack Attack, but Generic Success, that was a dude in Canberra, Connor Mars. Anyway, he's a bit of a dude, and everyone loves that one.
I was going to say that's the one I was going to bring up, because that's I remember seeing that when it came out, and I just thought it was genuinely one of the funniest cover arts I'd seen. It was very much it had a bit of it was rather tongue in cheek the way it was. For people that haven't seen it, it's essentially the album's Generic Success, and it's a mortgage application with a big rejection stamp on it next to a plate of avocado on toast, which is poking a bit of fun at something that was said a little while ago about this generation and their attitudes towards money, which was quite roundly condemned by a lot of different people.
Well, it was, but also super relevant, and especially from a band coming from the inner west of Sydney. Like, no one that lives in the inner west of my generation is thinking about buying a house. Like, it's just, But no, that was. I gave him the concept. He laughed at me and he said, "No worries, I've got you." And then he came back with a couple of designs, and I'm like, bingo. I'll give you a copy of that on vinyl, man, because it looks awesome on the full vinyl.
Like, must do.
Next time I'm in, I'll give you a copy of it. But then, but a lot of the artwork I get done is a local dude now. It's
again, it's cool to come home and network through all the people that you knew back in the day.
Sure.
Don Cole, who his day job is designing tombstones.
Wow.
I know, which is pretty dope. He works for the foundry, but on the side, he does...
It's fascinating.
Yeah, I know. He's a bit of a dude, and he's got his own little company called Dead Rascals Design. And he does merch. He does a lot of design stuff, posters, but he also does video, and I do another side project with him called Insect Suppository. It's really out there. It's environmental sort of stuff. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like doing it because it's so weird and whatever. But he did payroll number. He does all the insect stuff and a bunch of design. But yeah, so the short answer is some of it, but not all of it.
Because I know even the single artwork for some of the stuff that's been coming out recently, Erase, Hearts Mend, whatnot, even the cover art for that you can see obviously on the single, when you look at it digitally, it does still have it's very eye catching. It's well put together, and it sort of goes well with the songs that it's part of. And I bring that up because we're going to play one of the songs that was released last year, Tim Godwin's solo music. It's called Hearts Mend. We'll talk a little bit more about it afterwards, but just for listeners that obviously hadn't heard this before, what thematically would this song be about?
Nursing burnout. I did nursing at UNE, and I was a crit care nurse. Still am, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But yeah, I wrote it about burnout, and I put it out towards the end of the peak of the pandemic last year, and brings back a lot of flashbacks for me, but yeah, I think that's a good thing.
No, totally.
That makes sense.
And it goes back to what you were saying before about the Tim Godwin side of things being more personal as well.
100%, yeah.
So for those of you who haven't heard it yet, this is something that you can stream online on various different digital platforms. This is Hearts Mend by Tim Godwin, coming up right now here on 106.9 Tune FM. You're listening to the home of UNE's student-powered radio, and we'll be right back.